What kind of girl spends her last silver dollar to buy the most feared man in the mountains? The coal town square burned under the summer sun, the dust thick enough to choke a person. People crowded close around the wooden auction block, whispering and laughing as if someone's life was just sport to them. The sheriff raised his gavel, and the chains of prisoners rattled like the sound of doom. Every face in the crowd leaned forward, hungry for the next spectacle. 16-year-old Rose Whitfield stood near the edge, squeezing the single silver dollar in her hand. Sweat slicked her palms, and the coin cut into her skin, but she welcomed the sting. At least it made her feel something other than fear. All her life, the town had mocked her, calling her Fat Rose, Foolish Rose, Useless Rose. Their stares crawled over her now, but she did not move. She felt she had to be here. Something in her bones would not let her leave. Sheriff Dunn cleared his throat. "Next up," he said in a slow voice, "Elias Boone, known to some as the Mountain Devil. Resisting arrest. Assault on a peace officer, suspected of worse." A wave of gasps moved across the square. Then Elias Boone stepped into the light. He was massive. His shoulders blocked the sun. His dark hair hung in wild ropes, and scars crossed his face like claw marks. Iron chains bit into his wrists and ankles, doubled, as if one set wasn't enough to hold him. He walked with the slow, dangerous grace of a wild animal that had been caged too long. People stepped back as he passed. "That's the devil himself," someone whispered. "He'll kill before winter," another muttered. Rose swallowed hard. She should have run, but she couldn't. When Elias's dark eyes swept across the crowd and landed on her, her knees nearly failed. Still, she stayed rooted in place. Sheriff Dunn raised the gavel. "Bidding starts at $1. Laughter exploded. "$1? Someone shouted. "He ain't worth a penny. 50 cents just to watch him break." The voices crashed over Rose like waves, but inside her head she heard something else. Her father's voice, soft but steady. "Stand tall, Rosie. There's more to you than they see." Her hand shook as she raised the silver dollar. $1, she said. Her voice snapped through the air like a whip. The crowd fell silent. Then the laughter came again, sharper than before. "Well, look at that!" A woman cackled. "Fat Rose buying herself a killer!" Her stepmother Eunice shoved through the crowd, rage twisting her face. "Roseanne Whitfield, put that coin down right now!" Clyde and Virgil, her stepbrothers, snickered from behind her. "Bet he strangles her before nightfall," Clyde jeered. "Serve her right," Virgil added. Rose's cheeks burned, but she did not drop her arm. She met Elias's eyes again. For a moment, the dangerous mask on his face cracked. Something flickered there. Curiosity, maybe even respect. Sheriff Dunn shifted, uncomfortable, but rules were rules. $1 bid, he announced, going once. "Don't you dare, girl," Eunice shrieked. "Going twice." Rose held her breath. The gavel slammed down. "Sold to Miss Whitfield for $1. The square erupted, half in laughter, half in shocked whispers. Rose's legs shook as she stepped onto the auction block. The wood creaked under her weight, dragging her shame to the surface. But she kept going. Her fingers trembled as she handed the sheriff the coin. "Girl," Sheriff Dunn muttered, "you've bought yourself more trouble than you know." The guards pushed Elias forward. Up close, he was even more terrifying. His clothes were ragged, his hands scarred, and he smelled of iron and sweat. But his movements were controlled, almost careful. She noticed something else, too. His worn shirt had been mended in places. Someone once cared about him. Sheriff Dunn shoved a set of papers into her hands. "He's your responsibility now. If he runs or kills, that falls on you." Eunice screamed from the crowd. "You stupid girl! You've ruined us!" But Rose wasn't listening anymore. Elias looked down at her. His voice was deep and rough from disuse. "Much obliged." The words startled everyone. The crowd went silent as if the world had paused. Warmth flickered in Rose's chest. Something like hope. She took the iron key the deputy pressed into her palm. It felt heavier than anything she had ever held. She turned toward home, her heart pounding as Elias followed. chains clinking with each step. The crowd's whispers chased them down the road. "He'll kill her before morning. She's lost her mind." "Fool girl." Eunice stormed away with Clyde and Virgil behind her, leaving Rose alone with the man the whole valley feared. The sun dipped behind the hills, stretching shadows across the dusty path. Rose tightened her grip on the key and whispered, more to herself than to him, "This way." So the two walked side by side. The girl no one believed in, and the man no one dared believe in, bound by a single silver dollar, and headed toward a future neither one could foresee. What kind of storm do you unleash when a girl no one respects brings home a man everyone fears? The road to the Whitfield farm stretched long and uneven beneath the sinking sun. Every step Elias Boone took sent the chains around his wrists rattling like warning bells. Rose kept her eyes forward, trying to stay strong even while fear stirred inside her chest. Behind them, a few boys followed, hooting and cracking a whip in the air to scare her horse. Rose bit her lip but refused to cry. If she cried, they would win. By the time they reached the rutted track to the farmhouse, the boys finally turned away, their laughter fading into the woods. The farm looked tired. The fences leaned, the porch boards sagged, and smoke curled from the chimney with the smell of beans and old wood. On the porch stood Eunice Whitfield, arms crossed tight, mouth pinched like a knife edge. Clyde and Virgil leaned against the railing, grinning as if they'd been waiting to tear her apart. "Well," Eunice snapped, her voice shrill, "you actually brought him home. Fool." Rose stopped at the gate. Her heart pounded hard enough to hurt, but she lifted her chin. Behind her, Elias stood quiet as stone. His shadow stretched across the yard like something the night itself was afraid of. "You'll chain him to the post out back," Eunice ordered. "Then you'll come inside. Supper's almost cold." Rose reached into her pocket and touched the iron key. Her hand trembled, but she forced the words out. "He'll eat at the table." Silence fell over the yard like a dropped hammer. Clyde burst into ugly laughter. "At the table? Like he's family?" Virgil snorted. "Better hope he doesn't eat you first." Eunice's face turned red. "You dare talk back to me?" Before Rose could speak, Elias stepped forward. His voice rumbled low, calm. "Ma'am, I'll take my meal wherever you choose, barn or post. Makes no difference. But I will eat polite, same as any man." Something in his steady tone made Eunice hesitate. Her eyes darted to his chains, then to his face. She sniffed sharply. "Fine, but the chains stay on." Inside, the kitchen felt tight. The table was loaded with bowls of beans and 5 cold biscuits. Rose pulled out a chair for Elias. He sat slowly, careful not to startle anyone, the bench creaking under his weight. Clyde and Virgil dragged their chairs back exaggeratedly, making a show of fear. But Elias ignored them. He reached for a spoon with slow, deliberate moves, the chains clinking softly. Clyde muttered, "Bet prison food was worse than Ma's cooking." Elias lifted his gaze. It pinned Clyde to the seat. "Prison food kept men alive," Elias said, "but it didn't keep them human. That's the worst of it." He leaned forward slightly. "This girl showed me mercy when she didn't have to. I mean to honor that. You'd best think twice about how you speak to her in my presence." A hush fell over the kitchen. Even the old wall clock seemed to stop. Clyde flushed red and looked down. Virgil swallowed hard and shoved beans around his bowl. Eunice banged pots behind them, pretending not to care, but her silence told another story. Rose sat straighter. Something warm bloomed inside her chest. No one had ever defended her. Not like that. When supper ended, Eunice pointed toward the door. "He sleeps in the barn. I won't have him under this roof." "Yes, ma'am," Elias said simply. Later, after washing dishes and facing Eunice's muttered threats, Rose stepped outside. The night air smelled of hay and smoke. A soft glow flickered from the barn. She crept toward it. Inside, Elias knelt in the straw. His massive frame bowed low, his chains gathered near his knees. His hands were folded, his head bent, his voice quiet. "Lord, I know the years I wasted, the anger I let eat me hollow. But today, you sent mercy in the form of a girl no one else sees. Help me be worthy of that mercy. Help me serve her true." Rose's breath caught. The mountain devil was praying, not to escape, not for vengeance, but for her. She stepped back silently, heart thudding. She had not expected tenderness in a man the world feared. She had not expected hope to feel this warm. The next morning, Rose woke early. She carried 2 buckets out into the yard. Elias came out of the barn, hair damp from the trough, his steps steady. "I can carry those," he said. "I can do it," she replied. "I know," he said, "but 2 hands make lighter work." He took the buckets easily, and they walked to the pump. Clyde and Virgil leaned against the fence, smirking. "Look at that," Virgil said. "Your monster fetches water." Clyde spat. "Won't last. He'll be gone by week's end, one way or another." Elias set the buckets down. His voice stayed calm. "If you've work to do, do it. If not, don't stand in the way of those who do." The boys shifted, uncomfortable. They slunk back toward the house. Rose let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "You didn't have to defend me," she said. "Yes," he said simply. "I did." By mid-morning, Elias had mended the east fence, his movements steady, strong. Rose helped hold the rails, her hands blistered but her spirit lighter than it had been in years. At noon, Elias paused, leaning on the hammer. "You've got strength, girl," he said softly, "in your arms and in here." He tapped his chest. "Most folks never see it, but I do." The words almost broke her. She blinked back tears and nodded. Later, while they ate lunch at the crowded kitchen table, the door swung open. A man stepped inside. He wore polished boots, a clean waistcoat, and a charming smile. He doffed his hat with a practiced flourish. "Good afternoon," he said warmly. "Nathaniel Price, attorney from Charleston." Eunice lit up like a lantern. "An attorney? Well, that is a surprise." Price smiled wider. "I've come regarding the railroad. Rumor has it your land may be in dispute." Rose stiffened. "Our land isn't for sale." "Of course," Price said smoothly. "I simply want to protect your rights." Elias watched him with cold eyes. "Railroad doesn't send strangers to protect mountain folk out of kindness," he said. Price chuckled. "Suspicion is natural, Mr. Boone, but sometimes trust is needed too." His gaze slid to Rose, warm and steady. It stirred something inside her, warm but uneasy. Elias's stare stayed fixed on Price, sharp as a blade. When Price left, Rose's heart felt torn between 2 forces. The smooth, confident lawyer, and the silent, scarred man praying in her barn. That night, sleep came slow. But morning came fast, with boots stomping on the porch, a sharp knock on the door, and the railroad agent standing beside Sheriff Dunn, ready to take everything, and ready to break anyone who stood in their way. What happens when a girl everyone mocked becomes the only person brave enough to fight a railroad? The morning mist clung to the ridge like a warning. Rose barely had time to step into the kitchen before the door swung open. Sheriff Dunn marched in, heavy boots shaking the floorboards. Behind him stood Horace Langley, the railroad agent, with the slick mustache and cold eyes. He carried a leather case stuffed with papers. Eunice fluttered around him like a nervous bird. "Mr. Langley, sir, please come in." Rose's heart dropped. "This here is official business," Langley said, dropping the papers onto the table. "Your property lies in the path of expansion. Your father signed over rights years ago. We'll begin surveying today." "That's a lie," Rose said. "He would never sign away our land." Langley smirked. "People sign all kinds of things when times get tough." Elias stepped into the doorway, chains rattling. "Your map shifts the boundary lines wrong," he said. "The creek marks the border, always has." Langley raised a brow. "And who are you? A convict? A monster? You think your word matters?" Before anyone could answer, the cabin door opened again. Reverend Josiah Red Elk walked in, tall and quiet, carrying a leather ledger. "This land was never given away," he said calmly. "I have the original maps, signed and witnessed." Langley's smile cracked. "Outdated," he snapped. "True," Red Elk replied, "and truth does not expire." Rose stepped forward. "My father told me this land would be mine." Sheriff Dunn crossed his arms. "Best to accept the company's offer. Fighting them won't end well." Eunice wrung her hands. "Roseanne, stop this nonsense." "No," Rose said. "We'll fight this." Langley slammed his case shut. "Then you'll regret it. The company always wins." He tipped his hat and walked out, Dunn following. Silence swallowed the room. Eunice rounded on Rose. "You stupid girl! You'll ruin us! You and that criminal!" Elias didn't move. He only looked at Rose. And she felt stronger for it. Reverend Red Elk placed a hand on her shoulder. "Meet me tomorrow. I will show you the proof you need." That night, Rose could barely sleep. She kept hearing Langley's words. The company always wins. The next morning, she found Elias outside splitting wood. His chains dragged through the dirt, but his strength never faltered. "We need help," Rose said. Elias nodded. "Then we find the ones they hurt." They walked to Maribel Vega's farm first. Her well stank of chemicals. Someone had poisoned it. "They want me gone," Maribel said, voice shaking. "They think a widow will run." "We won't let them," Rose said. Next, they visited Jed Harper. The one-armed war veteran studied Rose with sharp eyes. "You've got fire in you," he said at last. "All right, I'll stand with you." By evening, the four of them gathered in the barn. A small circle, but a strong one. Rose paced in the lantern light, her voice firmer than she thought possible. "They want to scare us quiet," she said. "But if we stand together, the town will see the truth." Jed nodded. "People don't follow speeches, they follow courage." Maribel lifted her chin. "Then let's show them courage." Elias watched Rose, his scarred face softening. "You've got steel in your spine, girl," he said. "More than most." His words settled deep inside her. The next morning, neighbors came, dozens of them. Some with tools, some with food, all pretending they just came to help harvest. But Rose knew the truth. They were choosing a side. The barn filled with grain. The yard filled with laughter. For the first time in her life, people called her Miss Rose with respect. Elias worked among them, chains and all. Children ran behind him, giggling as they tried to touch the iron shackles. His quiet patience made them less afraid. By sunset, the farm felt alive again. For one night, hope felt possible, but hope never stays quiet for long. As lanterns flickered across the yard, Nathaniel Price stepped out of the shadows, his smile smooth as riverstone. "Remarkable gathering," he said. "You're inspiring these folks, Miss Whitfield." Rose tensed. "What do you want?" "To help," he said. "I can prepare your case for court. With my support, you'll stand a chance." Elias stepped closer, body tight like a drawn bow. Price didn't look at him. He didn't have to. "Not all men who stand beside you are what they pretend," Price said softly. Then he walked away. That night, Rose lay awake staring at the ceiling. She wanted to believe Price, but she knew Elias had never lied to her. The fire came just before dawn. Rose woke to shouting. Smoke clawed at the sky above Maribel's farm. By the time she and Elias reached the ridge, the home was burning, flames tearing through wood and memory. Maribel stood shaking, rifle in hand. "They came in the night," she said, masks on, torches in hand. Neighbors gathered, whispers thick with fear. Then hoofbeats thundered down the road. Sheriff Dunn, deputies, and Nathaniel Price riding beside them. "Maribel Vega," Dunn barked, "you're under arrest for inciting unrest." "That's a lie," Rose cried. Elias stepped forward, but deputies swarmed. Then Price raised his hand. "Arrest Elias Boone," he said smoothly, "wanted for murder in Montana." Rose froze. "No, that's not true." "He'll hang for it," Dunn said. Elias didn't fight. He stood tall as they shackled him again, heavier this time. He looked at Rose. Calm, sure. Stand tall, he said quietly. Don't let them break you. I can't do this without you, she whispered. Yes, he said. You can. They dragged him away, dragged Maribel away. Smoke rose behind them. Fear rose inside her, but something else rose too. Anger, fire, strength she never knew she had. Jed Harper stood beside her. They think they've won, he said. But this ain't the end. You've got truth on your side. Rose stared at the burned remains of Maribel's home. If the railroad wants a war, she whispered, they've got one. She wrote to the judge. She gathered records. She stood in the courthouse and told the truth with shaking hands but an unshaking voice. The courtroom swelled with gasps and whispers as the lies were exposed. The poisoned well. The fake deeds. The paid witnesses. When the judge struck his gavel, the whole room felt it. The Whitfield land stays with Rose Whitfield, he said. And Elias Boone is cleared of all charges. He is free. The crowd erupted. Rose ran to Elias as the deputies struck off his chains. He looked down at her, something warm in his eyes. That silver dollar you spent, he said softly. It bought more than me. It bought back hope. She swallowed hard, tears shining. You taught me I had it all along. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Rose and Elias stood at the edge of her father's field. You stood tall, Elias said, even when you thought you couldn't. Rose lifted her chin. And I'll keep standing, for Papa, for Maribel, for this valley, for you. The mountains seemed to echo her promise. She wasn't the fat girl the world laughed at anymore. She was the girl who fought a railroad and won.